Well, dwarf hortus is not a dwarf plant. They get massive in size, and we've got probably 16 of them that are really large, humongous, and dwarf hortus will tend to have a lot of pups on it. If you've got a plant that you bought it as a dwarf hortus, by the time it gets an 8-inch caudex, and if it doesn't have any pups around it, chances are it's not a dwarf hortus. It's more of an organism of pups than anything else. And a lot of other types of hortus won't have any pups, or they'll have 2 or 3 pups around them. Dwarf hortus will usually have, on average, a 10-inch plant will have 6 to 10 pups around it. And, the leaves are maybe a little shorter than some of the other forms of hortus, or, quite a bit shorter than the longest leaf hortus, but they're not a dwarf plant, and they do have a full-size leaf. And they're really extra cupped more than regular hortus or different types of hortus. And there are a lot of different forms of hortus. Well, the normal hortus, there's a green Arenarius, and there's blue Arenarius, blue-leafed Arenarius, and then there's the plant they call the true blue Arenarius. And there's a lot of debate that continues on, and I'm sure will be continuing on for a long time, about whether the true blue Arenarius is a hybrid or not. In my opinion, it's probably just an ancient hybrid. At some point, there was probably hortus and Arenarius growing in the habitat, and over hundreds or thousands of years, they hybridized together, and now we have this thing that we call true blue Arenarius. And the difference between a true blue Arenarius and a hortus is the true blue will have 4 spines on a leaf, on a number of the leaves, not all the leaves, but some of the leaves will have 4 spines, as opposed to hortus generally just has 3 spines. But there are exceptions with hortus where you'll find 4 spines here or there, but normally there'll be 3 spines. Hortus will always, the leaves will always cup a little bit, and the true blue Arenarius won't cup as much. However, the cones do look a lot like a hortus cone, in my opinion. They're just typically greener than a hortus cone, but there are forms of hortus that have green cones too on the females. The males are always dark brown or blackish color on hortus. The true blue Arenarius has a green male cone, and the female cone, like I say, looks a lot like a hortus, but it's greener. And so we do have true blue over here that I could show you. So this is a true blue Arenarius from a very reliable source. He actually, pre-CITES, got plants brought over from Africa. And as you can see, the 4 spines, 1, 2, 3, 4 spines. Where normally a hortus will only have 3 spines, with occasionally having 4 spines on a hortus, but generally 3. And also a hortus, the leaves are going to cup. They'll cup downward like this, inside, and the true blue won't have much of that going on, although it'll have, a little bit of it. But typically they don't cup like a hortus, and the fleshes come out real bronze on a hortus, whereas they come out greener on a true blue Arenarius. So there are quite a few differences, and to the untrained eye they look a lot alike, but once you're into it and really observe them closely, there's quite a bit of difference. The straight blue-leafed Arenarius is really, really different than the true blue Arenarius cone. Okay. The true Arenarius, blue-leafed Arenarius, they are very consistent. You can tell Arenarius cone from a long ways away. They always look the same. They look exactly the same. Okay. Some are bigger and some are smaller, but they have the exact same look, and they're more warty on the cone scales. They're a little bit, or quite a bit more warty than something like this would be. And like I say, this would look a lot more like, if this is a female, a lot like a Hortus cone. But then again, the males are green cones, so they look quite a bit different from a Hortus cone. Yeah, well, from my understanding, they only really, and there's stories that they found other ones, but they weren't really quite the same. And the other ones they found were all males too. They're given another form of woody eye, but really the one true woody eye was only one plant. I believe it had 11 stems. They discovered it, I believe, in 1895, and they did separate the stems, and they spread them around to different botanical gardens and private collectors. And of course, those stems popped, and those pups popped, and so on. But all pure woody eyes came from that one plant, which is, who knows how old that one plant was. Maybe thousands of years old. Who knows? But yeah, they only found the one plant, and so you cannot reproduce pure woody eye seed because there's just a male. So we do make a lot of hybrid woody eyes, and they sell really well. People want woody eye in the plant. I think the most popular one ever has been the Horwood, Hortus times woody eye, and they're really fast growing. They show a lot of the woody eye characteristics, but then they also show a lot of woody eye characteristics, and like with a lot of hybrids, there's no two alike. And so there's a whole little wave of people worldwide that are really interested in hybrids. And I think mainly because they have all the pure species, and they like to try different things. So I do like to make hybrids from time to time. To my knowledge, there has never been a Hirsutus seedling produced in California. Originally, a lot of the plants that came over, there's some up at Berkeley, and I have a few friends that have them in private collections. And most of them came over supposedly as females, but they all so far have turned out to be males when they've coned. I've never seen a female Hirsutus cone in the United States, and I don't think it's ever happened. So that's one reason why it's so hard to get. I mean, you just can't, if you can get pure ones out of Africa, seedlings, that's where to get them. But we've never really been able to reproduce them here. So that's why they're so expensive and rare. And then with stuff like latifrons, it takes a long time for latifrons to get big enough to cone. I know gardens where there's latifrons with 2.5 feet of trunk, and the plants are gigantic, enormous, 40-year-old plants that still have never ever coned. And once you get a year where that plant does cone, you're looking probably at, on average, a decade before it's going to cone again. So when you do get a female cone, then it's who's got the male cone, because there's so few of them really around that are mature still. So that's one of the reasons why it's so expensive and rare. And also, Hirsutus and latifrons are just such gorgeous plants. They're just insanely beautiful. And then there's some latifrons that are not as nice, but there's latifrons and there's latifrons, and the really nice trap valley latifrons, to me, as far as plants go, there's nothing prettier than that, So hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you